You know what? It wasn't awful. We weren't awful, but there were definitely some things that could have been a lot better. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. My name is the Crimson Wolf, and welcome back to the Blue Review for our Premier League game versus Liverpool. First off, disclaimer, apologies this was not out yesterday. I was just very, very tired at the end of that game, and there was no way I was going to be able to make a quality video in that kind of state. So, I went to bed. But I'm here now to make this video. If you're new to the channel around here, allow me to explain what the Blue Review is. Basically, I go through 8 points from our most recent game, Lampard's famous 8 as I like to call it, and I give them a different colour card, red, yellow or blue, based on whether it was a bad, mid or good performance. Without further ado, I'm just going to go straight into this because I want to get talking about this. And we do begin with the red cards, and the first red card is for one of the people in the thumbnail for this video. It is for Tosin Adarabioyo. A lot of people a couple weeks ago after the West Ham game were debating who should start next to Levi Colwill between Tosin and Wesley Fofana. I was one of the very few that had been backing Wesley Fofana. A lot of people were backing Tosin. This game has kind of proved my point. Tosin's not ready. He is not ready for these type of games, and I don't think he's the right partner for Levi. Wes and Levi have a contrasting styles of defending, and that's what makes them a great partnership. You can't play defenders that have similar styles of defending to each other, which is what Tosin and Levi have. They're very similar in the way they defend. You need two different types of centre-backs, really, which is what you get when you play Levi and Wes. Tosin was not good yesterday. He was very, very close to getting sent off in the first half. It's not a red card, and people need to understand this. A denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, specifically one that gets one sent off, is deemed to be a red card when there is no one else around them, around the player, besides the person that obviously tackled them, that could get to the ball before they do and prevent them from going one-on-one with the keeper. Like, I know a lot of people comparing this to the Saliba incident in the Bournemouth game. That incident, Saliba tackled Evan Nielsen illegally, brought him down. Nobody was near him. I don't know where Gabriel was. The nearest player was Ben White, and he was still 29 yards away from that ball. So if Saliba hadn't brought Evan Nielsen down, Evan Nielsen gets that ball, and he goes one-on-one with Raya. In this incident, Levi Colwill is a matter of inches behind Tosin when he brings Diogo Jota down. Colwill could have very feasibly taken Jota down from this kind of angle. So, yes, it's a foul, and yes, it's a yellow card, but it's nothing more than that. It's nothing more than that. So, while it would not have surprised me if Tosin got sent off, considering these refs are usually kind of dicks for that, he did not deserve to be sent off. That's point number one. But Tosin just generally did not have a good game, I don't think. I think he was one of the people responsible for that second goal we conceded to Curtis Jones. This just proves what I've been saying, really, which is that Tosin's not the one to start alongside Levi. I think Wes is, and if I'm proven wrong, then we need to go and probably get somebody in the transfer market. Or we hold our hope for Aaron Anselmino when he comes back, and he is a very aggressive defender. He's built in the style of Lisandro Martinez and Christian Romero, that Argentine, like, very aggressive defender. So I think he may be the answer, but unfortunately we're not going to find out till next summer. So for now, Wes Fofana is 100% playing over Tosin. Tosin, yes, he should have started this game because there were no other options really to start this game, because I wouldn't trust Dizazi. I don't think Tosin brought to this game what he needed to. A lesson to be learned there from a lot of people, which is that there is a reason we've been playing Levi and Wes together and not Levi and Tosin. Moving into my second red card, and it is for Robert Sanchez. Someone said it on Twitter, and I 100% emulate this, which is that you don't know what you're going to get from Sanchez. One game, he plays like Prime Buffon. The other game, he plays like Karius. And this was a Karius performance, unfortunately, for Robert Sanchez. First of all, just his decision making was not on point today. Like I said, it should have been. Just his defensive acumen in general wasn't really on there. He was quite lucky with that penalty. I did say, to be fair, when watching the game, I did say the second he tackled him, that's not a pen, he gets the ball. I could see he got the ball. I was surprised it was given in the first place. After watching it back, I was actually a little bit more hesitant that they were going to give it, specifically with just how forcefully Curtis Jones had gone down. But you can see Sanchez gets the ball. It's quite clear it's not a penalty. The penalty that we did concede is not his fault. I was praying that Mo Salah had one of those penalty moments where he just misses completely, because he does have those because of his penalty technique. So I was hoping it was one of those. It was not. Sanchez just couldn't do nothing about that. But just a lot of his decision making in this game was not at the level it should have been. This really would have been a game that would have actually benefited from Philip Jorgensen, because I think Jorgensen's distribution in this is better than Sanchez, and I think his decision making is better than Sanchez's. I'm going to say this now, and I hope I'm proven wrong. Robert Sanchez is not the long-term solution to our goalkeeping situation. He is not. He is too inconsistent to be considered a long-term solution. We've now gone a couple games where he had the Bournemouth game, he was fantastic. He was good in the West Ham game as well. He was pretty awful in the Brighton game, very good in the Forest game, and now back to pretty awful. If you're a fan of Mono, who's a Chelsea fan on YouTube, you'll have heard him say it. He is the Raheem Sterling of goalkeepers. You don't know what you're going to get from him. It could be absolutely amazing, or it could be awful. So, and we can't do that, man. We can't have a goalkeeper that just, you don't know what you're going to get from him. We need a consistent goalkeeper in between the sticks. Maybe that's Philip Jorgensen, or maybe it's possibly even Mike Penders, who seems to be the big prospect that we've collected out of our 8 goalkeepers or whatever we have right now. It could even be Georgi Petrovic. He's doing quite well for Strasbourg right now. But Sanchez is not the long-term solution. So whether it's in our own ranks currently, or whether it's somewhere out there waiting for us to sign them, he is not it. The third red card, and I am going to be very, very brutal with this, because a lot of people said he played well. No, he did not. Either they were watching a different game or I was, because this player was awful, because it was genuinely his worst performance I've ever seen him have for Chelsea, and that is Malo Gusto. Malo Gusto was terrible this game. Now, first off, partly it's not his fault. Malo Gusto, for some reason, and this is going to be something I'm going to lead into in one of my next cards, Malo Gusto for some reason was played at left back for this game. We had Reece James return to start, and he played right back. Malo Gusto switched to left back. That is a terrible idea from the get, because Malo Gusto is very much right-footed. His left foot is not his dominant foot by any stretch of the imagination, and you can see that throughout this game. On top of that fact, he's having to go up to possibly the best right winger in the world in Mo Salah, and that was already a bad combination. And to add on to that, because he was the player inverting, Reece James formed the final member of the back three. Because it was him inverting, Levi Colwill was played out on the left, where he is much better centrally. That's for one point, and more exposed to Mo Salah. Eventually, Reece James did go off, so he did switch over to right back. He looked a little bit better, but not really. Like, Gusto, he was not good in this game. A lot of people have been saying he was okay. He wasn't. I don't know how people can justify this performance. So many misplaced passes. He was losing his man constantly. Very really could have cost us so many more goals if it wasn't for other members of the team. And up the other end of the pitch, he wasn't helping either. He skied at least 2 shots in this game. It was a lot of misplaced crosses. Gusto is genuinely one of the biggest victims of this new system because he doesn't suit it. I'm going to be honest, he doesn't. And that's why I am very happy that Reece James is finally back, because now that he's back, we have someone who I think this inverted system will suit a lot more. And thankfully, Marc Cucurella is back for the next game, so you can play him at left back, tuck him in alongside Colwill and Fofana, and have Reece James be the one that can bomb up the pitch. And his attacking output, especially on that right side, is immaculate. So I think him coming back is an absolute godsend. Gusto needs to sort himself out, because he has been putting in some pretty shaky performances. This is by far one of the worst he's ever had, and he really needs to go and sort himself out. If this system is not going to fit him, we might end up losing him at some point. I love the guy, and I think he is genuinely one of the best players we've signed under this new regime. But if he doesn't fit the system, it's not his fault, but it's not what Maresca needs at the end of the day. He's been more than happy to clearly keep him on, and there has been some moments, especially in Conference League games, I think, when he's actually played quite well. And maybe now that Reece James is back, maybe that's what he gets refined to, and maybe he'll actually look a lot better there. But right now, Gusto is looking poor. This was just a really bad game for Gusto, man. It was a really bad game. Moving into our first yellow card of the game, and it is for, very unfortunately, Chelsea's main man, Cole Palmer. Now, the reason it's a yellow and not a red is because, yes, Palmer was largely pretty bad yesterday. Like, he was not the player he normally is. He was not able to impact the game in the way that he normally is able to. However, I don't believe that's his fault. I think it was just the fact that Ryan Gravenberch and Curtis Jones just marked him out of the game. And that is unfortunately a problem we're going to have to get used to, which is that teams are going to become much more afraid of him and start putting like 2 midfielders on him to just suffocate him out of the game. We do need to get used to that a little bit, because people now know how dangerous he is. And because of the position he plays, it allows them to put more people on him. This is the situation why I always wanted him to play right wing, because I think while he's out there, yes, there is the potential to double up, but I think that leaves areas all over the pitch where we can exploit then. Whereas if they don't do that, then all he's got is the left back to deal with. Palmer is still Palmer at the end of the day. I still think he's the best player in the Premier League, and he will definitely still have an absolute brilliant season. He always does. He always has good games. Palmer will have the occasional bad game. He did last season as well, when he was largely ineffective, but he will always come back and have a decent game eventually. Hopefully he comes back and has a good game soon. The second yellow card is going to Enzo Maresca. Now, I know a lot of people have slighted Maresca for this game, specifically to do with his substitutions. I think his substitutions were actually very necessary. First substitution was at half-time, and that was Pedro Neto for Jadon Sancho. Now, that I understand, because Maresca knows that Liverpool's right-sided defence is very frail. We know how suspect Trent Alexander-Arnold is defensively. And while Jadon Sancho was doing pretty decently well there, to be fair, he wasn't able to impact it as well because he's not quick. Pedro Neto came on, and then we instantly started looking a lot more dangerous down that left side. The other 3 substitutions that he made after that were Reece James for Renato Vega. Now, that was a very necessary substitution. A, because obviously we want to preserve Reece James, but B, because it allowed Malo Gusto to get the hell out of left back, put him at right back, and then have Renato Vega at left back. And it is no coincidence that the second we do that, Salah instantly becomes quiet. Not for the entire game, admittedly, he had a couple moments, but Vega largely kept him quiet for the rest of that game. The other defensive substitution was Omar Badiashile for Tosin. Again, similar to before, Tosin was not having a good game, so getting him out there, replacing Badiashile. On paper, to be fair, that's actually not a good idea, because Badiashile's been largely awful this season. However, to his credit, Badiashile played really well when he came on. I don't know why, but he played actually quite well when he came on. I think his job had clearly been to be told to mark the front man, which in this case was Darwin Nunez. And that's what they did. They basically were just stuck on each other the entire game, and they were just pissing each other off at the end of it. He did nothing wrong. There was no misplaced passes, no poor judgment of tackles and challenges and everything in between. He did quite well, Badiashile. And then the third substitution was a little bit questionable but understandable, which is Romeo Lavia for Enzo Fernandez. Now, questionable because Romeo Lavia up to that point was having an absolutely phenomenal game, and which is no surprise, Lavia is an absolutely incredible player. We saw that versus Man City, we saw it through the entirety of pre-season, and we saw it versus Liverpool. He is a phenomenal player. But obviously, coming back from injury, Enzo Maresca obviously didn't want to risk him, so he took him off and brought in Enzo Fernandez. And again, to Enzo's credit, he did really well when he came on, so it wasn't the end of the world. And then obviously his final substitution, which I think was probably a bit late by the time he did it, was Christopher Nkunku for Noni Madueke. The only thing I'm going to say about that is that I don't think he set it up properly, because he brought off Noni Madueke, which meant he put Christopher Nkunku on the left wing, with Cole Palmer still in the 10, and put Pedro Neto on the right wing. I think he should have kept Pedro Neto on the left wing, put Christopher Nkunku in the number 10, and put Cole Palmer on the right wing. That's what I think he should have done. While all that sounds pretty good from the way I've described it, there is one key flaw in Maresca's setup yesterday, and it's the thing I already mentioned. Why was Malo Gusto playing left back? Malo Gusto is a right back, not a left back. Yes, he's played there before, and to be fair, when he's played there, he's actually looked okay. But even in those games, while he's defensively solid from out there, he cannot go forward because he does not have a good enough left foot to do it. This game, he was neither effective going forward or defending because he's up against Mo Salah. And again, I say, when Renato Vega came on, Salah got quiet. The only reason I can put down to the reason that Gusto started left back instead of Vega is because he didn't trust Vega up against Salah. To be fair, it's a warranted concern, and it was a concern I had myself, to be fair, because Vega's still inexperienced. He's only, what, about 20 years old, and he's going up against Mo Salah, for crying out loud. I think his alternative to that idea was a bad one. I don't think Gusto was the solution to that. I would have rather had more faith in Vega than I would have to have Gusto at left back. I'm going to give Maresca a little bit credit for noticing his mistakes and changing them relatively quickly. And to be fair, actually, another point I've just remembered, we came out of that second half swinging. We scored in what, like 2 minutes into the second half or something? So whatever he said at halftime must have had some impact because we got ourselves back in the game. It was just unfortunate that we went to sleep pretty quickly and conceded the second goal. I don't think Maresca did his best setup for this game. As I say, I think playing Gusto left back was a terrible decision. However, I think he rectified it pretty quickly. Another thing, actually, I'll give him credit for, which is starting Romeo Lavia and Reece James. Now, Romeo Lavia, I had a feeling would start this game. He's been fit for, what, 3 games now? So he was going to be fine. I'll give him credit for starting Reece James because Reece James actually did quite well. Other than that, it's a yellow card for Maresca, you know. Moving into our first blue card of the game, and I mentioned him briefly just recently, and it is for the goal scorer, Nicholas Jackson. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't think Jackson had his best game in this one. However, for that goal alone, I'm giving him a blue card. Not only is the finish great, by the way, and it is a really good finish, he doesn't screw it up, he doesn't put his foot through it, he just places it down the side of Kelleher and he scores. But his ability to just about keep himself onside, and admittedly he is quite lucky that Konate was reaching at the time that allowed him to stay onside, but he managed to do it and he scored the goal. And I think that moment to get us back in the game was just so important, and if we hadn't gone to sleep defensively, it could have been the thing that kick-started us to possibly even go and getting the win. For that moment alone, I am going to give Jackson a blue card. I don't think his overall performance was anything special, but I think just for that moment, I think he does deserve the blue card. Moving into the second blue card, and it is for Pedro Neto. And he was just our most dangerous attacker in that entire second half. Him going down that left side, linking up with between Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and eventually Renato Vega. He was just so dangerous. Trent was obviously very nervous of him because of how quick he is and how dangerous he is. And Neto got the better of him more than a handful of times. I think he was possibly just a little bit unhelped by the fact that people weren't getting into the box when he was getting into those areas. Regardless, Neto was definitely our most dangerous player in that second half. He is genuinely the player that is knocking the loudest on the door to be getting a starting spot right now. Who he displaces between Jadon Sancho and Noni Madueke, I think is a interesting argument. I think it will possibly be Jadon Sancho because I think we'll start to look at it a little bit more situationally, and I think Sancho is more suited to playing teams that are going to sit deeper, like your Forests and your Bournemouths, whereas I think Neto, where there's space to run in behind, I think he's definitely the player that you want there. So I think Neto is 100% worthy of a start. He probably starts midweek when we play Panathinaikos. I really do like Pedro Neto. I think he is, other than, I think the only summer signing who I'd say has been better than him so far is Renato Vega, but Neto is a very close second for me. I think he has been really good since he's come in. But my man of the match for this game goes to the man who was absolutely everywhere in this game. The man who was honestly might be my pick for Chelsea player of the season so far. He has just been so phenomenal recently, and people need to start putting some damn respect on his name. And his name is Moises Caicedo. Caicedo was the best player not named Curtis Jones on the pitch yesterday. He was absolutely amazing. He was everywhere. His first touch, by the way, this is something I actually want to touch on. Moises Caicedo has the best first touch in the entire squad. The amount of times this guy receives passes at speed and he's still able to put them under perfect control is immaculate. With certain players, you'll just see it. It'll come at them at speed, it'll hit, and it'll just basically hit their foot and it'll ricochet anywhere. Caicedo's just able to just take the ball and put it under his control. And that is just an immaculate skill that is so important in his breed of midfielder. So, incredible for Caicedo. Obviously, he gets the assist for Nicholas Jackson's goal. Very similar to the assist he gave him for the West Ham goal that he scored. It was a really, really good performance from Caicedo. He was everywhere. He was progressing the play. He was winning the ball back. He was just in places where he needed to be. He is becoming 100% worth his price tag. 115 million is now starting to look like a bargain for this guy because he is absolutely stellar. 100% the best player on the pitch, Moises Caicedo. I mentioned him earlier, Romeo Lavia had a phenomenal performance. His ability to just get the ball and then turn and immediately spring someone on the wing out is phenomenal. And paired with Moises Caicedo, I think they were a brilliant pairing. The question is now, where do we play Enzo Fernandez? Do we play all three of them? Do we rotate between the three of them? So one game you could play Enzo Caicedo, one game you could play Enzo Lavia, and then Lavia Caicedo the next game. That's a headache for Maresca to resolve. But Moises Caicedo, 100% man of the match for this game. He was absolutely stellar. So that is my review for our game versus Liverpool. I hope you all very much enjoyed. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you think we played versus Liverpool? Who do you think played well and who do you think did not? And with that being said, my name is the Crimson Wolf. I am the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet, and you have all been amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Good luck with it.